Hey guys. I wanted to film this video outside just to change up the scenery a little bit, but there is a bird out there and he's psychotic, and I know that last time I filmed outside the birds were really loud, so to avoid that I'm back in here, boring chair. But I'm here to give you guys some information about budgeting on the Pacific Crest Trail. I've received quite a few questions about how much it cost to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, how much did I spend on gear, how much does it cost to resupply in towns, and things like that. So this has taken a little bit of time to gather the information, just because I've had to make like an Excel sheet about, with all the gear that I purchased and with how much I spent in different towns and stuff, because I wanted it to be pretty accurate for you guys. And so it has taken a little bit of time, so I'm sorry for the delay in the upload, but let's get started. And oh, just to preface this video, you guys know that even though this is how much I spent, it's not necessarily going to be how much you spent or how much other hikers that thru-hiked previously have spent, because everybody's different. Some people just spend more than others in general, and people eat more than others. People are more frugal than others, and then some people have a lot of this gear already, so they don't have to go out and buy it. And then some people opt to not buy as expensive gear, but then often have it replaced several times. Like they might have malfunctions with their gear and have to replace certain things, or might go through more pairs of shoes because for whatever reason, and might have medical expenses, things like that. So or injuries where they had to stay in towns longer and pay for a place to stay, so accommodations in those towns and things like that. So just keep that in mind, and let's get started with the gear. So I made a spreadsheet that I might try to show you guys in a clip, but if not, I wrote down everything that I already owned and didn't have to buy, and then all the stuff that I actually purchased. So some of the big stuff some more expensive things I didn't have to buy. So like my backpack, I already owned my pack, although it isn't a long distance hiking bag like I've showed you guys. It's more of a mountaineering pack, but I really liked it. It held weight really well, and it was the Osprey or a 60-liter pack, I believe. 60 I think. And trekking poles I already had, although mine were like mountaineering trekking poles, not like long distance hiking poles, but those worked for me. And I already owned a down jacket and base layers, so those are things I didn't have to buy. So those are kind of expensive, can be expensive things that I didn't have to go out and purchase. So having purchased everything, and this includes a satellite messenger, which was $300, and so that's the one expensive. That's more of a personal item, obviously not necessary for the Pacific Crest Trail, so that would be a luxury item that I carried. And what else would be a luxury item? There was another luxury item that I carried. Well, whatever. And so anyway, in total, I spent $2,017.90 on gear that I purchased specifically for the Pacific Crest Trail. And I had some of this stuff previously, but I didn't have it in like I didn't have it in a lighter version of it. So like my titanium pot, I'll show you guys a clip of that. I already had a pot, of course, from hiking and things like that before and camping, but I needed a lighter pot, and I didn't need it to be such a large one, so therefore I went out and purchased a smaller, lighter titanium one. And same thing with the stove. I mean, we have stoves, but I needed a light one, so I bought the Pocket Rocket. And so there are just different things that I bought specifically for this trail. And so the bulk of the cost distribution for my gear was my tent. That was really expensive. That was regularly $300 for the REI quarter dome 2-person tent, but I used my REI membership coupon, and so I got that on sale for I think $270. That's what I wrote, $270. And my sleeping bag, I also got that on sale for $120. It's an REI Kelty 20 degree. And then, like I said, my satellite messenger, $300. I got the DeLorme InReach satellite messenger, so that's pretty expensive. And then I also bought a hard shell jacket that was a double. It had a down layer and a hard shell, or a down jacket inside of the hard shell. And like I told you guys, I carried 2 down jackets because neither one of them was that great of a jacket, so I just doubled them up. And so that was on sale, but I got it for $150. And then shoes, I went through 3 pairs of shoes. Well, I went through 2, ended with on my 3rd pair, and then my Crocs. And so in total, I spent $350 just on shoes. And one of those pairs was a Salomon kind of like trail boot, not like a leather boot or anything like that, but it was like the Trail Vortex. And so that boot was about $160. So that's where the bulk of that money went. So that's what I spent on gear. And you can spend less, obviously, and you can spend a lot more. I never wanted to spend over $300 on a tent, and so obviously, you know, with ultralight items, the lighter they are, the more expensive they are, the more expensive the material is. And so there are things that I was pretty frugal about, like I didn't want to spend over $300 for a tent. Like I refused. That's why I chose to carry one that was even heavier. And even on sale, I got it for $270, and I still had to bite my tongue just to buy that. But anyway, that was worth it. I loved my tent, and my sleeping bag was okay. I think I'd get a different one for my next trail, especially if I was going to go through 4 seasons again. And everything else I was overall really happy with. I was very happy with like the cookware that I took. I was very happy with my pot, my spork, my stove, those kinds of things. Very, very satisfied with that. And yeah, nothing that I would really change. There are a few things that I purchased along the trail. Like a pack cover. I bought that when I was in Mammoth Lakes, California, because I didn't start off with one, and I just realized that it was getting pretty rainy in Oregon. I mean, it poured in Washington as well, so that was just a necessary item that I bought, and that was $40 for my extra large Osprey pack cover. And then, so people often wonder how much did it cost to resupply and things like that, and I've kind of touched on that, but it's different for everybody. It depends on how many times are you going into town to resupply. Are you staying in those towns? And how are you staying in those towns? Are you staying with a trail angel? Are you staying with family or friends? Are you camping somewhere, stealth camping? Or are you paying for a campsite somewhere? Or are you staying in a hotel, splitting a cabin? Whatever the case is. So that does change and vary from person to person, and preference, and then availability of what's actually there for you. So I went through every single trail town that I resupplied in or visited and wrote down everything that I did there so that I could kind of ballpark how much I spent on each of those towns, because I wanted this information to be accurate for you guys. So I went through all of them, and on average I spent about $35 on resupplying food for about 7 to 8 days. And obviously when my family sent me resupply packages, then all I had to pay was maybe the pickup, the shipping, or the handling fee that the people holding it would charge me. But if it was a post office, then it was just for free. So that was pretty easy. And then most of the time when you go into town, you're always going to eat at least 1 or 2 meals and buy some junk food and eat it. So I included that as well. And then sometimes in the beginning, I stayed in a couple of cabins with several people. So that was always split. And in total, I actually wrote down how many times I stayed in a hotel and things like that. But so in total, not counting side trips because those aren't necessarily part of the Pacific Crest Trail, like I said, you guys know that I rented a car one time and went to the beach. I'm not including that in this, just because that was not necessary and not part of the trail itself, and I didn't need to do that in order to successfully thru-hike. So in total, I've estimated that I spent about $1,085 on resupplying. And so I'm going to break that down a little bit for you guys. So P.O. box and postage, I included that. So I sent myself, how many boxes? I sent myself less than 10 boxes. And so in total, including fees that I paid to pick up my packages and the shipping fees that incurred for having my family ship them to me, in total was $110. I only stayed in a hotel or / cabin 8 total times. So that's 8 total times in 5.5 months. I mean, I felt like it was a lot more. So it's not very many times, and it's pretty inexpensive. I shared the cabins with people, and I even shared a couple of hotel rooms with people, so it was always split, so I never had to pay much. And to be honest, I never spent over $70 like in the total price of a room ever. Except I think on my birthday I paid a little bit more for a hotel room in Lake Tahoe. But other than that, that's what I did. Like I said, the average resupply cost in town was $30 to $40 if it wasn't via resupply box. And then total Trail Angel homestays that I did were 5 total, and 2 of those were just totally random strangers that were giving me a ride and then offered their home or their cabin or their guest house up to me. So only 5 stays. That's not many either. And like I said, with that, you donate about $20 a night with established Trail Angels, because they kind of expect a donation of about $20 per night, because they're letting you do your laundry and showering and paying for things like that, and electricity and water and stuff like that for you. But random strangers, they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They will make you a meal. It's really nice. And my flight home, which was a one-way, $250. I didn't have to fly to San Diego and then get a ride down to the border, because my dad drove me, so that's another cost that other people might have that I didn't have. And so total cost with the new gear and resupplying on the trail and transportation was $3,462. Which isn't that bad. I didn't think I spent that much on new gear, as much as I spent on new gear, but that's okay, because I didn't spend that much on the trail itself that I thought that I'd spent. So $3,462.90 is what I spent, and that is how much it cost me to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And I know that some people mentioned or asked if anybody ran out of money and if that's a reason why people don't finish their thru-hike. And definitely it is, I think, like a small handful of people, because like I said, only like less than 1/4 of people that attempt to thru-hike actually successfully thru-hike. So I'd say a handful of people had to leave the trail because they ran out of money. And number 1, that's probably bad budgeting issues. Number 2, some people actually plan on only having enough for a couple of weeks or a month and then just working along the way. So they're obviously not in a rush, and they can stay in towns and just kind of wing it and put posters up in cafes about being a PCT hiker and needing work and things like that. So there are people that do things like that and just kind of make money along the way. I would just, a good estimate of a budget, you know, if you're starting from scratch, I'd say like $4,000, $5,000. But obviously you can do it for a lot less. You can buy cheaper gear. You can, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of ways to save money along the trail. You could not ever have stayed in a hotel and things like that. So just up to you. But this is the end of the budget video. My next video will be my final Q&A video, and it will have a special guest from a family member of mine, and it's my dad, and a few of you guys have asked questions about how did your family react, and you know, were they supportive, you know, were they afraid for you and things like that. And so I wanted to give him an opportunity to answer some of those questions for you guys. And so if you have any questions at all for me or for him, write them down in the comments, and I'll write them all down and answer them all in the next video. And like I said, I'm sorry for the delay in this upload, but it has taken me a while to get all this information together. I wanted it to be really accurate for you guys, and just give you guys a really good idea of how much it cost me. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great week.